It was a starry October night in 1975 in the peaceful community of Greenwich, Connecticut. Martha Moxley, a 15-year-old teenager, was eager to attend a Halloween party at her neighbors, the Skakels. Little did she know that this night would turn into her worst nightmare. Born on a sunny afternoon on August 30th, 1960, Martha Elizabeth Moxley saw life begin to script its initial pages in picturesque Piedmont, California, in the company of her parents and her older brother, John. However, 14 years after this beginning, in 1974, fate had a different plan for her and her family: a move to Belle Haven, a charming neighborhood nestled in Greenwich, Connecticut. A transition that brought a new atmosphere, but also an opportunity to live in one of those places where children could truly be children, a place of safety and discovery, as Martha's mother, Dorothy, would recall in an interview from that time. The transition to this new setting didn't disrupt the young girl's life, who shone like a rising star. Martha, an exemplary student, earned the title of Best Student in high school, standing out not only for her grades but also for her skills in basketball. Making friends was never a challenge for her, her charismatic and warm personality attracting everyone around her. The world seemed at her feet, ready to embrace her with all its promises and opportunities. However, Halloween of 1975 was approaching, and with it, a dark chapter was about to be written in her story. Martha's friendship with Thomas and Michael Skakel. Martha's friendship with Thomas and Michael Skakel, the nephews of Ethel Skakel and Robert F. Kennedy, represented a special chapter in her life. Thomas and Michael were just two of Rushton and Ann's 7 children, a notable family in 1975, aged 17 and 15, respectively. However, the Skakel household concealed a complex backdrop. Despite the constant coming and going of people in their home, the atmosphere was not exactly the healthiest. In 1973, the family faced a devastating loss, and the matriarch succumbed to brain cancer. And as if that weren't enough, Rushton, the patriarch, was battling his own alcoholism, often leaving his children alone without any supervision. It was during this time that Michael described, a level of even more intense chaos overtook our house after his mother's departure. The Moxleys, who lived just a short distance from the Skakels, frequently witnessed the constant flow of teenagers wandering through the house, a direct result of the lack of responsible adult supervision. What motivated the crime? Within the pages of Martha's diary, we see the young girl repeatedly mention the Skakel brothers. She expressed deep confusion about Tom's advances, making it clear that things were not right in that regard. Michael also appeared to be a target of her frustration, as per her recorded words. Interestingly, these notes would play a crucial role later on when the prosecution used them in Michael Skakel's trial. A Halloween nightmare. The night preceding Halloween, traditionally marked by harmless pranks on the streets of Greenwich, took on a dark tone in 1975. Martha had gone out with her friends, but her absence at home until the early hours of the morning raised growing concern for her mother. Phone calls to Martha's friends stretched into the wee hours, all without success. A friend of Martha's revealed to Dorothy that the last time she had seen her, she was in the company of Tom Skakel. Armed with this information, Dorothy made her way to the Skakels' house. Upon her arrival, Michael Skakel reported not having seen Martha. It wasn't until just after noon that Sheila, another friend of Martha, made a horrifying discovery. The body of the missing teenager lay face down under the shadow of an imposing pine tree at the edge of the Moxley property. Her clothes were stained with blood, and her jeans and underwear were pulled down to her ankles, although no evidence of sexual assault emerged in the investigations. Beside the teenager's body, a broken golf club lay, used brutally to repeatedly assault Martha. The force of the blows was so great that the club shattered into 3 pieces. Even more sinister, Martha Moxley had also been stabbed in the neck with one of the broken fragments of the golf club. Halloween 1975 had turned into an indescribable nightmare. Michael Skakel under investigation. The investigations soon honed in on Michael Skakel, as the Tony Penna Golf Club found at the crime scene matched perfectly with those in the Skakel household, even bearing the name and engraved on its handle. Naturally, detectives turned their attention to Tom Skakel, as he was the last person to have seen Martha Moxley alive. Tom told investigators that he said goodbye to Martha around 9:30 p.m., right in front of his own house. He claimed that he then went inside to watch television with the new family tutor, Kenneth Littleton. Kenneth Littleton, in turn, was also subject to investigation in the fall of 1976. However, surprisingly, he claimed not to have known Martha Moxley, as the tragic event occurred on the first night of his stay at the Skakel residence. Although Kenneth raised doubts in various lie detector tests, he was never formally accused of involvement in the case. Detectives believed that Martha had been brutally assaulted and killed around 10 p.m. When questioned about his whereabouts on that fateful night, Michael Skakel informed investigators that he had left his house around 9:15 p.m., heading to his cousin's house, and only returned around 11 p.m. The reopening of the case. The reopening of Martha Moxley's case took place in 1991 when a rumor suggested the involvement of another Kennedy family member, William Smith Kennedy. Although the theory was quickly debunked, the case returned to the spotlight, with Michael Skakel emerging as the primary suspect. This time, the investigation had 2 experienced private detectives, Jim Murphy, a former FBI agent, and his assistant, Willis Billy Krebs, a former lieutenant in the New York Police Department. While interviewing Tom and Michael to clarify their activities on the night of Moxley's murder, they uncovered previously hidden lies. Tom admitted that it wasn't around 9:30 p.m. when he last saw Martha in front of his house, but, in fact, closer to 10 p.m. Surprisingly, he also revealed that, before returning home, he and Martha had engaged in intimate affection outside the young girl's residence. Lieutenant Krebs recalled that Tom began to cry when he admitted this revelation, but the family attorney interrupted the questioning before more incriminating information could emerge. Meanwhile, Michael told investigators that upon returning from his cousin's house around 11 p.m., he didn't go to sleep, as he had previously claimed. Instead, he climbed a tree outside Martha Moxley's bedroom and masturbated. Author and journalist Dominic Dunn had access to the investigators' report and passed it on to State Inspector Frank Garr, who had been on the case since the beginning. Garr had always maintained his suspicions about Michael, even when they had been previously dismissed. The report released by Dunn breathed new life into his theory, shedding light on a case that had spanned decades. The trial. The trial of Michael Skakel marked a pivotal turning point in the Martha Moxley case. In 1998, a one-man grand jury and an investigator were tasked with meticulously reviewing the evidence. After careful analysis, Judge George N. Thim concluded that there was sufficient cause to charge Michael with the crime that had rocked the community. Numerous witnesses, former schoolmates of Skakel, appeared before the court to share astonishing revelations. Many of them claimed that Michael, during his years at school, had confessed to them about the crime. One such former schoolmate, Gregory Coleman, made a striking statement during the pretrial hearing in June 2000. He recounted that Michael had told him, "I'm going to get away with murder. I'm a Kennedy." Coleman continued with his revelations, stating that Skakel mentioned he was trying to advance in a relationship with a girl, but she didn't reciprocate his advances. Faced with this rejection, Michael had allegedly admitted to brutally attacking the young woman, causing fatal injuries. However, the key witness, Gregory Coleman, never had the opportunity to testify at Skakel's trial in 2002. Tragically, he died of an overdose in August 2001, depriving the court of a crucial account. Skakel's autobiography becomes evidence. A pivotal moment in the trial occurred when Skakel's autobiography, titled "Dead Man Talking, A Kennedy Cousin Comes Clean," became a crucial piece of evidence. In 1997, Skakel had reportedly met with ghostwriter Richard Hoffman to record statements that would be used in the book. During the trial, these recordings had a particularly damaging impact on Skakel. In the audio, he admitted that on the night of Moxley's murder, he was under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, as well as sexually aroused. When Martha's mother, Dorothy, showed up at his door that morning, he claimed to be in a state of panic, saying, "I was still wasted from last night, a little drunk." He confessed that he thought, "Did they see me last night?" Skakel's defense argued that he was concerned about being seen by the Moxleys in the tree on their property. However, the prosecutors argued that Skakel was referring to being seen with Martha on that fateful night. The defense's counterargument maintained that there was no concrete physical evidence incriminating him and that he had an alibi for the time of the murder. However, the prosecution painted a picture of a jealous, drug and alcohol-fueled teenager, consumed by anger after being rejected by his crush, with access to the murder weapon. Finally, on June 7, 2002, the jury delivered its verdict. Michael Skakel was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison, marking the final chapter in a story that had intrigued and haunted many for decades. Innocent or just privileged? While Skakel served his sentence behind bars, his team of lawyers worked tirelessly to overturn his conviction. Despite 4 appeals, all of them were rejected. However, on October 23, 2013, Skakel found himself back in court, driven by the argument of his attorney, Mickey Sherman, who claimed that he had received grossly inadequate legal representation. As a result, Skakel was released on bail of $1.2 million on November 21, 2013. Prosecutors did not give up and fought tirelessly to reinstate Skakel's conviction. Finally, in December 2016, they succeeded before the Connecticut Supreme Court, which ruled by a narrow margin of 4 votes to 3 that the conviction was based on inescapable evidence presented by the prosecutors and that his legal representation was appropriate. However, the story had not yet reached its conclusion. In May 2018, the court reversed the decision, also by 4 votes to 3. The court determined that Sherman had failed to provide effective assistance by not contacting a crucial witness, resulting in Skakel being deprived of a fair trial. State prosecutors in Stamford still have the prerogative to request a new trial against Skakel, but they will certainly face considerable obstacles due to the passing of some key witnesses. Culpable to some, innocent to others. To this day, Martha Moxley's mother and brother firmly believe in Skakel's guilt. Dorothy Moxley remains convinced that Skakel's freedom is the result of his wealth and influential connections. However, there are also fervent advocates of Skakel's innocence, including his cousin, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., author of the provocative book titled Why Michael Skakel Spent a Decade in Prison for a Murder He Didn't Commit. In Kennedy's words in the introduction, a media misconduct maelstrom fueled the perfect storm of greed and ambition that culminated in Michael's imprisonment. His conviction represented a blatant failure of the legal system. This case, in fact, has been highly debated and polarized. The question of Michael Skakel's guilt or innocence remains a topic of intense discussion and dispute among the public, legal experts, and the parties involved. It highlights the complexities and challenges that can arise in the criminal justice system. Did you know about this case? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video with those who like true crime stories.